A swirl of online rumors has suddenly dragged Ron Howard's name into one of Hollywood's most heartbreaking tragedies, and the reaction has been immediate. In recent weeks, social platforms have been flooded with posts claiming that director Ron Howard has finally spoken up about the death of Heather O'Rourke, the young actress whose life was cut short in 1988. Although no official interviews or verified statements from Howard support these claims, the online conversation has grown rapidly, prompting widespread public interest. As any newsroom would observe, what makes this situation notable isn't the rumor itself, but how quickly it reignited a decades-old discussion around O'Rourke's passing. Her death has always carried a sense of shock and unanswered questions, and when Howard's name surfaced in connection with it, even without confirmation, it triggered a wave of speculation. Audiences began revisiting old interviews, archived reports, and medical documentation, searching for clues or context. Many viewers simply didn't realize how much emotion still surrounds the story. The resurfacing of these discussions highlights a familiar reality in the digital age. Unverified posts can travel faster than official information, reshaping public attention overnight. And while Howard himself has made no public comment about the circulating claims, his sudden involvement in online debate underscores a larger point. Heather O'Rourke's story continues to affect people deeply, nearly 4 decades later. Long before the internet turned her story into a mystery, Heather O'Rourke was known simply as the child star who stunned audiences with a single line: "They're here." Heather O'Rourke's career began with a moment many actors spend years chasing: being discovered. Her encounter with Steven Spielberg at MGM Studios led to her role as Carol Ann in Poltergeist, a performance that made her one of the most recognizable young faces of the 1980s. Even at a young age, she carried scenes with a calm intensity that stood out against the chaotic supernatural backdrop of the film. Her success translated into steady television work, earning recurring roles in Happy Days, Webster, See High PS, and several other shows throughout the decade. Colleagues often described her professionalism as remarkable for her age, noting that she memorized lines quickly and handled the pressures of long filming days with surprising ease. Her rising career painted a picture of a promising future, the kind that child actors rarely achieve without encountering major setbacks. And yet, by all public accounts, O'Rourke appeared well supported by her family and grounded despite her workload. This made the events of February 1988 all the more devastating. A young star with a bright path ahead suddenly vanished from Hollywood's spotlight, leaving the industry to mourn a life that ended far too soon. The official explanation behind Heather O'Rourke's passing was clear on paper, yet the shock it generated has kept the public asking questions for decades. According to medical records and contemporary news reports, Heather O'Rourke died on February 1, 1988, after a sudden medical emergency that began with abdominal pain and flu-like symptoms. Doctors initially believed she was suffering from a routine illness, but her condition deteriorated rapidly. She suffered cardiac arrest on the way to the hospital, was revived, and rushed into emergency surgery to correct what physicians described as an undiagnosed congenital intestinal obstruction. The surgery concluded successfully, but shortly afterward, her body went into a second cardiac arrest, this time fatal. The official cause of death was ruled as complications from intestinal stenosis leading to septic shock. Medical experts interviewed at the time described the case as highly unusual. While intestinal stenosis is congenital, they noted that Heather had shown few of the long-term symptoms typically associated with the condition. Her death stunned physicians and journalists alike, with many outlets at the time commenting on the rare and unpredictable nature of such a medical event. Despite the clarity of the official medical explanation, the suddenness of her decline, combined with her young age and public visibility, contributed to the long-term unease surrounding the tragedy. This unease became a breeding ground for speculation, misunderstandings, and misinterpretations that continue to resurface regularly. Even with a documented medical cause, the public's questions never fully stopped, and that lingering uncertainty helped fuel decades of rumors. In the years following Heather O'Rourke's passing, a range of unofficial theories began circulating, primarily among fans and online communities. Some questioned the accuracy of the medical diagnosis, pointing out the rarity of the condition and the sudden nature of her symptoms. Others speculated about the pressures of Hollywood, wondering whether industry expectations may have affected her health, even though no evidence ever supported this. A few interpretations misread or misquoted early medical reports, leading to confusion that continued spreading over the years. None of these claims have been verified, yet they continue to appear in forums, social media discussions, and commentary videos. For many people, the tragedy seemed too sudden, too unusual, or too shocking to accept without searching for deeper meaning. Newsrooms have repeatedly noted that highly emotional stories, especially those involving young public figures, often attract extraordinary levels of speculation. And because Heather's death occurred before the age of digital record-keeping, many details resurface today without proper context or sourcing. As a result, the line between documented information and rumor often becomes blurred, creating cycles of renewed interest every few years whenever a new claim appears online. The rumor that Ron Howard had broken his silence spread fast, even though no official statement from him existed. The latest resurgence of interest came when several unverified posts began circulating across Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, claiming that Ron Howard had allegedly made new remarks about Heather O'Rourke's death. These posts often included dramatic wording, emotional framing, or misleading headlines, which contributed to their rapid spread. What made this notable to news analysts was the lack of any recorded interview, press release, or public comment from Howard that matched these claims. Despite this, the rumor took on a life of its own. Users reposted graphics, fabricated quotes, or out-of-context statements, none of which were linked to credible sources. As the story gained traction, many viewers believed the claims were tied to real events simply due to the volume of repetition. Media researchers often highlight this phenomenon. When a narrative is shared widely enough, it gains an illusion of credibility, especially when it involves well-known public figures. For Ron Howard, a respected filmmaker with no documented connection to Heather O'Rourke's medical situation, the sudden association seemed to emerge entirely from digital speculation. His name added a sense of authority to the rumor, leading to even more attention. As of today, no verified evidence supports the claim that Howard has made new or revealing statements about the tragedy. If the rumor spread so quickly, it's because Heather O'Rourke's story still carries a weight that time hasn't diminished. Journalists who cover entertainment history often note that certain stories remain etched into the public consciousness, and Heather's is one of them. Her death represented not just the loss of a young talent, but a reminder of how fragile childhood can be within any demanding profession, including acting. Over the years, her story has been referenced in discussions about child safety on film sets, health screenings for young performers, and the importance of recognizing early medical symptoms. When Ron Howard's name appeared in the online rumor mill, the public reaction wasn't only about him. It was about what his perceived involvement symbolized. Howard has long been seen as a trustworthy figure in Hollywood, someone who understands the industry from both a child actor's perspective and a director's. His association, even if unsupported, made people revisit the broader question: have lessons truly been learned from the tragedies of the past? The fact that her story still evokes such a strong emotional response speaks to its lasting cultural impact. Heather O'Rourke remains, in many ways, a symbol of a young life that touched millions and ended far too soon. Even without sensational claims, the real questions are the ones rooted in documented history, not rumor. Journalists emphasize that while Heather O'Rourke's medical cause of death is clearly recorded, Some aspects of her final days remain emotionally unresolved for the public. How did her condition go undetected? Could the symptoms have been recognized earlier? Were medical professionals aware of the risk she faced? These questions drive legitimate inquiry, separate from the speculation. There are also broader questions about the role of child actors in demanding environments. How well did the entertainment industry support young performers in the 1980s? What safeguards were in place? What improvements have been made in the decades since? These issues remain relevant for today's Hollywood, which continues grappling with the responsibility of protecting its youngest stars. By refocusing attention away from unverified claims and toward documented facts, the conversation widens to meaningful topics that extend beyond a single tragedy. It becomes a discussion about awareness, responsibility, and how the industry can prevent similar losses in the future. In the end, the story that went viral says more about public memory than it does about Ron Howard. Despite the widespread rumors, there is currently no confirmed evidence that Ron Howard made new statements about Heather O'Rourke. What the situation does reveal, however, is how deeply her story remains embedded in Hollywood's history. The public continues to feel a sense of unresolved grief, shaped by her young age, her talent, and the suddenness of her passing. The resurgence of interest also reflects the digital era's ability to resurrect old stories with extraordinary speed, often blurring the line between fact and fabrication. But even within this wave of misinformation, one thing stands out. Heather O'Rourke's legacy still matters to people. Her work left a lasting impact, and the tragedy of her death continues to prompt important conversations about child safety, medical oversight, and the responsibilities of an industry built on young talent. As a newsroom would conclude, it's crucial to separate confirmed information from anonymous online claims, especially when the story involves real people and real loss. The truth about Heather O'Rourke is heartbreaking enough on its own, without the need for added speculation. And perhaps that's why her memory continues to endure, inspiring both reflection and a renewed sense of caution within the entertainment world.